has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast.
And we are back, Ferrall, coast to coast, hour number 2 here on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have you with us on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty. Before I move on, Joe, of course, I always love to let you know, you got to have the new SportsGrid app by now. I mean, what are we waiting for here? It's available both at the iOS and the Play Store. You can track scores and live odds. You can stay up to speed on all the latest content from your favorite host. You can follow Joe on the app. That's available to you as well. You can listen live anywhere, anytime on the app. The SportsGrid app available on iOS and at the Play Store. It is smarter to be on SportsGrid. Go to sportsgrid.com/watch to catch the network and see all the platforms you can find us on. All right, Joe. I told you I had a couple of holdovers for you with the coaches. There's a few that, because you love it. It's a football show for Joe today. He's got football nuggets. It's the owners' meetings. He wants to be involved in this stuff. Mike Tomlin has not one, Joe, but 2 new quarterbacks for this year, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. He spoke for the first time since acquiring Fields, talks about having him, Joe, but who is in the lead to be the starter before we even have thrown a football yet this year? Let's find out.
Oh my gosh, man! It's, he oozes talent and potential. He's worn the responsibility of being a franchise quarterback, but still he gets an opportunity to come into a community-like situation and learn from a guy that's been doing it for over a decade. Man, there's a lot of meat left on that bone, man. I'm just excited about working to be a part of extracting it.
So ideally, do you view that as a situation where you like to have Justin kind of sit, learn this whole year, or is he in that competition?
No, we're not resistant to competition, but as I've mentioned several times of late, I just think it's appropriate to establish positioning as we get into this thing. And the term that I've used is Russell has pole position.
Pole position.
Oh, pole position, Joe. So, and we welcome in all of our radio affiliates, Ferrall Coast to Coast on a Tuesday, Sirius XM, Channel 159, Sports Byline. Great to have everybody with us. That's a very interesting term he uses there, Joe. He says he's not afraid of competition, but Russell Wilson's in the pole position. Just because you're in the pole position, Joe, doesn't mean you necessarily have the job, although I still find it very hard to believe that week 1, it's not going to be Russell Wilson playing quarterback for the Steelers.
Well, he's minus 700 for a reason, Carver, right? And to have pole position means you're implemented as the starting day quarterback, in the offseason. But if he struggles in terms of the OTAs or training camp, and he struggles maybe in limited action in preseason, and Justin Fields is playing lights out, there is the potential for Justin Fields to be under center week 1. I do believe by October 1st, Russell Wilson will be out, and it will be Justin Fields because he gives them the best option to win games. And we saw Mike Tomlin pull the trigger with Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, to make it whatever it takes, all hands on deck. He went to third stringer Mason Rudolph to whatever it took to get the Steelers into the playoffs, and they stepped up. And if Justin Fields gives the team the best option, he's going to turn to him. You know that.
I agree, Joe. I think that there's going to be a point where Russell's going to have to play really well to keep that job.
The pressure's on.
Because this isn't a situation where you have a hack waiting in the wings. You have somebody who has shown through his first few years in the league that he can play in the league, being that he was on a crummy team, but he can play in the league. And I think it's going to be a lot easier for Tomlin to go to him knowing the kind of ability that Justin Fields has, Joe. So I think you're spot on about that. The New York Jets have the longest playoff drought in the NFL, but more specifically, Joe, they clearly have not made it since Robert Saleh has been the head coach for the Jets. So thought they'd make it last year. Quarterback gets hurt in the first series of the season. So does he have to make the playoffs this year? Let's hear what he thinks.
Would you agree with the premise, though, that a coach in his 4th year has to make the playoffs?
I guess. I mean, you could say that. I mean, you get so many opportunities, but like I said, the pressure to win is always there in the NFL. You're always trying to achieve what you set out to achieve, and it's been said before. I'll say it again. There's only one team happy at the end of the year. And
there's only one team happy at the end of the year. He loves saying that too. Yeah,
I can't. Forget that he's a Jet coach. Okay, we're obviously in the division, Dolphins and Bills, respectively. Robert Saleh does not have the type of personality to coach in New York, to be successful. I don't care. He's good looking. He's big. He's got muscles. He works out. His sentiment, he should be coaching on the West Coast, because all of the successful coaches in New York for the Giants and more importantly for the New York Jets, Rex Ryan and Bill Parcells, they were all guys that got in your face. They had emotion. They were defensive-minded guys. They would throw a chair, whatever it takes. This guy is too even keel for New York to be successful. People walk all over him. He's got no backbone in terms of a head coach. I said it, and I don't care how big he is. You know what? No intensity. None. It's all right, guys. It's okay. You'll do better next week. It's all right. Hey, we didn't make the playoffs. Let's let Big Ben Aaron dictate how we go. I mean, come on already, Robert Saleh. The guy's gutless. He never won a big game in his life.
There's only one team that's happy at the end of the year, Joe. There's only one team that's happy. Are you trying to say that honestly, you got to do better than that. I'm still surprised, Joe, that they brought him back to begin with. It still is amazing to me that they brought the whole band back together.
The way it is. He's like basically, he's the fall guy. I mean, I can't believe that they brought this coach back. I mean, really. What has he done? He just stands there. He laughs. He giggles. He doesn't get emotional. Your team sucks. Step up, guy. Do something.
Speaking of the AFC East, of course, there is one coach who won't be there for the first time in a very long time, and that is Bill Belichick. What does Dolphin head coach Mike McDaniel think about Belichick being out of the AFC East?
To say that
here we go with the hat.
Somber and have been mourning the loss of Bill Belichick in the AFC East would be a flat-out lie, and I wouldn't lie to you. There's not anybody more difficult from a defensive standpoint to try to forecast what they're going to do in that next game, and there's not anybody better at facilitating technique and fundamentals across the board.
There you go, Joe. Not upset at all that Bill Belichick's out of the AFC East. I'm with him. I'm not upset about it at all either. God bless and good luck.
Now, what's with the hat? 2 years ago was the linen shirt with the tank top underneath.
Well, he's got to look the best.
Now
he's
he looks
the Miami
like the paper
guy.
boy.
He's got to bring South Beach to these meetings. When he shows up at them, Joe, he's got to.
So wear loafers with no socks. Do something.
He
South
probably
Beach.
was doing that.
Like
I'm sure he was doing that with that outfit that he had.
Miami Vice.
Come on, Joe. We'll come back. We'll start to get into some of these games Thursday and Friday, the Sweet 16 NCAA tournament. Ferrall Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe for Scotty. We're back after this.
Going through this bracket, and I kind of lined up where I was in the futures market. I said, I have one more bullet left. Where do I go? And I played Tennessee.
$10,000 worth of Oakland gear has been sold to people with Louisville area codes. Like, this is going to sting people who are Wildcat fans because their arch rival gets to walk around and say, you lost to who?
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Betting in game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the number so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot, and I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like, technology can only like travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
They go into the Pac-12 tournament, they win it, then they go into the NCAAs, and they put up a bucket load of points. They have looked fantastic. That's not the team that I saw in the regular season.
All those people that had all that extra time because of those COVID seasons is going to be gone, and you're not going to really have the 23, 24, 25-year-old basketball players running around anymore. You're not going to have it.
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live, all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
BetMGM is for everyone that loves sports betting. Everyone. But Tom Brady.
Wait, what?
You've won too much, Tommy. Let others play.
So I'm in if I'm not Tom Brady?
You're in. Now dog me.
What if I used to babysit Tom Brady and he was a little troublemaker?
No one likes a snitch. But you're in.
What if I'm the Tom Brady of spreadsheets?
You're in.
What if I'm Tim Birdie, 7-time pool champion?
The dress-up's not helping, Tom. It's Illinois.
Hey, Tom. Hi, Wayne Gretzky.
I thought it would be bigger.
Exclusive offer for new customers. Except you, Tom. You've won enough.
And we are back, Ferrall, coast to coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us here today. All right, Joe, we have the Final 16, the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament. Lots of action this past weekend. A lot of chalk making its way through. And now we get set up for 8 big games on Thursday and Friday night. There it is, Joe, the big picture for you. Before we start going through a few of these games, me and you discussed this a little bit last night. Your overall thoughts, Joe, for the C2C crowd who have not heard you yet about this past weekend. Lots of chalk one. I thought there was 2 really good games with Oregon and Creighton, and then Houston and Texas A&M on Sunday night. But for the most part, Joe, the heavies took care of business in a big way.
Yeah, and I think the teams that started, Carver, and started nailing threes and were just lights out from beyond the arc typically won these games. And you could even include the underdogs that did pull games out, including Clemson. Shot much better in the first half than Baylor did to extend and build that first half lead. So, again, I think we're set up for a perfect Sweet 16. I still have my top 4 teams standing. Hopefully we can move on. I will say these bracket games on Thursday and Friday, I happen to like a lot of dogs. So we'll see how it plays out. But the only game I really don't like, and I told you last night, is that Creighton-Tennessee game, because I could see that game going either way. But the other games I feel pretty good about.
Let me give you this too, Joe, because you always love stuff like this, and that is the public has really been taking care of business here in this tournament so far. Teams getting more than 50% of the bets in tournament games so far this season, 38-13 ATS, Joe. This hat is 75%.
Blistering.
Unbelievable. And now here's the thing about that. This usually changes at some point,
yes.
Joe.
It's going to change this week.
and here's the other thing about this week. The margins are very thin with these games. One part about there being really no upset Saturday and Sunday is these are best on best for the most part in a lot of these games. And I think you're going to see maybe some teams that get a lot of heavy public action finally start to go down on Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, absolutely, Carver. I think you can go through every game. I think the one shocker that we would all be in agreement with is if somehow, some way, San Diego State avenges their loss in the title game and knocks off UConn as a 10.5-point dog outright, right? Now, that being said, I still believe San Diego State could be live. Like the way they're playing. I still think 10.5 is a lot of points in terms of this type of game because they did play last year. You're going to get San Diego State's best shot. They want to avenge everything that they didn't perform on the national stage. And I think UConn definitely has to play for 40 minutes because they let their guard down. They were up about 30 and allowed Northwestern to cut that to 16, and they almost backdoored it with about 3 minutes left. So we'll see how these games play out. I do like a lot of dogs outright, and that does include the Duke Blue Devils, Carver.
Wow. We'll get to that in a moment, Joe. Let's go through these games. We'll start on Thursday night. I want to see if any of them have also changed since yesterday when we talked about them. Clemson and Arizona, first game of the night in Los Angeles on Thursday. This was 6.5 yesterday, Joe. Now 7.5 for Arizona. 151.5 is the total. Of course, Clemson, a team that really nobody was backing last week, thought they'd be out of this tournament fast, except for you, Joe. I said it. You thought Clemson would get to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I had them for both brackets I filled out, and I think this is the end of the road. Now, this is another game now. We saw market movement, 6.5 up to 7.5. This isn't a game I'm going to be betting, though, but I still lean to the speed and athleticism of Arizona. I like the Kid Hall. I like the way Clemson's played. But again, they've been spotty, in terms of just shooting beyond the arc. They're more of an athletic team. So if this game becomes transition and just up and down the court, Clemson can hang. But I'll still give the edge to Arizona. I lean to Arizona winning the game and laying the 7.5, but I don't love it overall, Carver.
Kind of like the under, Joe, with the 151.5. That's kind of the first thing that jumps out to me for that game. The night game in Los Angeles on Thursday will be Alabama and North Carolina. This is another one, Joe. We saw some 3.5s yesterday for this game. 4.5 is where this is at now. And the biggest total by far, Joe, almost 20 points more than than all these other totals. 173.5 for Bama and the Heels on Thursday night.
Yeah, this is the best bet for me. I like Alabama, and I'm not backing down. And give me the points, but I'll take them on the money line plus 150. And I know North Carolina stepped up against Michigan State. This is not a bet against North Carolina. But again, this is a team in Alabama. I picked them for the Final Four. They're in my bracket. And I think they have the athleticism to hang. Again, they're a gutty team. They were better last year, obviously, with Nate Oates. But again, I attribute them or similar to Gonzaga. Pressure's off. All the pressure on Hubert Davis in North Carolina. ACC has played well. SEC has played atrocious. Give me the Tide, baby. I like Nate Oates. He's rocking the best jackets in the tournament. Give me Alabama outright.
Yeah, I think Carolina's going to win, Joe, but I wouldn't want to lay right now. I think that will be a close game. I think the real big number, though, is the total again. This will be 2 games in a row for me, but under, probably my favorite under out of all. I know, but Joe, think about it. I mean, that game could be 90-80 and it stays under.
Carver, I agree with you.
173.5 is a huge number, Joe.
But I think the problem that I have with this is that they're both teams that push tempo. Right? At least when I backed them with Grand Canyon, they're a slower down, more better defensive team, contrast in styles. This team, both teams could get into the 90s. That's why I'll root it for you. I would much rather take a wait-and-see approach, see if we could get a 185, 190 number with a fast pace and then bang it then.
Right, but here's the other thing. Carolina does play some D, Joe. So that's the one thing for me, is Carolina actually has some defenders out there. might be able to limit Alabama like we saw Grand Canyon do the other night. And if it gets into a game like that, that's a real good thing for UNC. All right, Thursday night in Boston, where we have the defending national champs, a rematch, Joe, of the championship game last year. They get San Diego State again here. UConn minus 10.5, 135.5 is the number. It's very tough right now, Joe, to go against UConn with the way they've been playing.
It is to maybe outright, but I'm going to take the 10.5. I think that's way too much right now. And I know UConn, dominant team, best team on paper, and obviously has showed that in the first two games. But a rematch type of situation, this is for bragging rights and obviously pride. Give me the Aztecs with the points.
The late game in Boston on Thursday night will be Illinois and Iowa State. Iowa State minus 1.5, 145.5 is the total. I usually don't back the Big Ten teams, Joe, but I got to tell you, I'm jumping on this Illinois bandwagon here. I think that right now, 33-1 to win the national championship, 6-1 to come out of this region. I think they have enough offense that if they got through this game, they could pose some problems for UConn in that next round.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have them on the 10-1, so let's get it.
Let's get it. Look at Joe, all in on the Fighting Illini. I'll give you the Friday night games later, Joe. We're going to have a lot more to do. We've got Coach next, though, with the Lion's Share. Davis after that. A very busy Tuesday here. Ferrall coast to coast. Carver High and Joe in for Scotty. We'll come back. Lion's Share Coach right after this on the Grid.
He's not in the low block.
Hey,
he's on the wing.
Yeah, but he's back.
He pounds in. He's throwing elbows, too.
That's a man move.
That's a real man move, but he's throwing elbows. The steal. The foul. No call. No call. The Silver Fox missed another one. The humanity.
In the corner, Caleb Love, the arms are up. Come on, I haven't had a touch in a minute.
25.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Betting in-game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the number so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot. And I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like, technology can only, like, travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart Team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The brighter the lights, the bigger the stakes. Hunt or be hunted. Know your prey. This is a whole new jungle. This is The Lion's Share. Brought to you by BetMGM.
And we are back, Ferrall, coast to coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us here today. BetMGM, they are always taking care of you. How about their first bet offer? $1,500. Are you kidding me? What do we got to do here? How about downloading the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android, or visit BetMGM.com. Sign up and deposit at least $10 into your BetMGM Sportsbook account. Place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. If the bet does lose, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. For new customers, of course, BetMGM's first bet offer, $1,500. Speaking of BetMGM, it is time for the Lion's Share, brought to you by BetMGM, and Coach James Young is with us every day here on Coast to Coast. Coach, good to see you as always, my man. How are you?
Carver High, I feel like I'm finally getting a little bit of rest and catching up after the tournament, but I ain't got much time because we're starting off games on Thursday again.
We start right up on Thursday, Coach, and we'll probably spend, me and you, a little bit more time with this tomorrow. But I'm already trying to find ways, Coach, to go after, the top seeds. Like, it just seems as dominant as they all were over the first weekend, it's not going to be that simple. That the 4-1 seeds are all going to be in Arizona the week after that. One or two of them, I think, at minimum, Coach, are going down this week. So I'm trying to plot my way through. And the team that's kind of stuck out to me, believe it or not, is Illinois. And I'm getting sucked in with the Big Ten, which I hate doing in the tournament. But they have enough offense right now, Coach, and a player who's playing at an extremely high level that could be the first team that maybe gives UConn some problems and a look that they haven't seen yet in this tournament.
Carver, when I watched them play during the Big Ten tournament, you got to admit, Terrence Shannon, I was going to say Randy Shannon, think about Miami, oh my Lord. Terrence Shannon Jr. is one of those guys that can take a team and put it on their back. Kind of like Glenn Rice in '89 with Michigan, right? Where you can just take a team, put it on their back, and carry them. I loved what I saw them out of the Big Ten tournament. My concern with them was on the defensive end of the floor, because I know that Brad Underwood is an understudy of Huggy Bear. And Huggy Bear was always a defensive coach. So I've seen this team turn it up defensively. I actually had them going to the Elite Eight. I have them beating Iowa State and the Elite Eight versus a team like Connecticut. And you got to admit, if Shannon Jr. goes off, that could be a team that can knock it off. Another team I would look out for is, folks, when you talk about how great UConn has looked, or Illinois, right now, Gonzaga's playing as well as anybody in the tournament. And if you look at it, if you can contain Zach Edey, and they got the guards that will engage Edey in the pick and roll and that drop coverage and get pull-up jumpers, Mark Few is as good as it gets. They're playing great basketball, and I know Lawyer got going a little bit, but Jones and Smith have not shot the ball well from three. If Lawyer is off, Gonzaga can definitely pick them off in the Sweet 16.
They certainly can. All right, Coach, we haven't gotten to do much NBA, obviously, because we've been very consumed with the NCAA tournament recently, and me and you will do a lot more of that tomorrow. But only 4 games tonight in the NBA. There's a few things from last night I got to get your thoughts on. First of all, I know that Monty's had a tough year in Detroit. I know that he has, and that's a real rough scene. Pistons have been pathetic, and now coming down the stretch, he's basically fielding a G League team. He got nobody to play. But, Coach, what was his problem last night? I mean, knock DiVincenzo over once in a while if you don't want him hitting 11 threes. I thought Monty went a little too far with being upset that the Knicks shot 1 billion threes last night against them.
Here's the thing, folks, and it's amazing. I think he's still upset about the game that took place a couple weeks ago at the Garden. When, let's be honest, Asor Thompson got tackled, 2-point takedown by DiVincenzo, if I'm not mistaken, and the Knicks stole a win from him. But here's the thing, folks. The Knicks shot 46 threes last night. DiVincenzo shot 20 of them. You knock them on their butt. And Josh Hart had the best comment at all. Well, don't let us make threes. And to me, what started to come out to me, and I was the biggest Monty fan when he was in Phoenix. This guy started to look like a fraud a little bit. Ever since they were up 2-0 in the NBA Finals, he has been a fraud. They lose 4 straight. They underachieve. He goes to Detroit. I'm saying to myself, hey, Detroit needs a young coach that can relate to the kids and develop them. They're 12-60. Forget how bad they are. I thought he was going to go in there. He was going to Cade to be Cade. Cade's had a good year. I thought he was going to unlock Jay Ivey. Guy shot 2 for 14 last night. Was absolutely awful with a -21. So now you start to wonder with Monty Williams, is it like everyone else or is it him? And this guy has a 5-year, $80 million contract, and he's in year 1. It's not looking really good with Monty in Motor City.
It really hasn't. 12-60, the Pistons are this year. That is absolutely pathetic. Next, coach. The Rockets have won 9 games in a row, and this is with Sengun going out of the lineup and getting hurt, which is pretty amazing. And they are now just a half game back of Golden State for that final spot in the play-in tournament. I think people thought it was like set, coach. Lakers and Warriors are going to coast and they'll be in the play-in tournament. Warriors are going to have to do work over these last 3.5 weeks of the regular season, coach, just to get in the play-in tournament.
They're going to have to do some work. And the lucky thing for Golden State is Houston has the 7th hardest schedule left in the NBA, where Golden State is 25th. But here's the thing. Going into this year, people talked about the star that Jalen Green was going to be, right? He was going to take that next step. And what kind of happened is Sengun kind of took that step, and Jalen Green had not. Well, folks, have you looked and see what this kid has done in the month of March? Scoring at 27.8 points per game, shooting at almost 50% from the floor, and 40.9% from 3 and 80% from the foul line. This kid is taking off. And speaking of Jalen Green, here's the story. Here's your big knucklehead, or I would call it your big dummy of the week. There has been rumors that they offered him and first-round picks to the Nets for Mikal Bridges, and the Nets said no. Could you imagine? I know I keep going back to this guy, Sean Marks. How the hell has this guy got a job? If you got offered Jalen Green and like 2 or 3 number ones for Mikal Bridges, and you said no, tough scene in Brooklyn. I know. It's a tough scene.
Especially when you're talking about you would have got those ones from a team that not exactly a top 4 team in the West. They're fighting to be in the play. I know that they're going to improve and they've got some young pieces, but man, coach, it does make you scratch your head if that's legit. And one other last thing, and then we'll fly through the picks. You saw last night why you can't trust the Suns in any spot. Losing to the Spurs with no Wembanyama last night. It was like, coach, they didn't even want to be there, Phoenix, in that game. And fine, you want to tell me that guys like KD and Booger, they only care about the playoffs. That's all fine and good, coach. But guess what? More games like that, right now they'd be in the play-in tournament. They fell a couple spots by losing that game. They are lifeless some nights, coach. It's hard to watch.
Man, here's the crazy thing. You can talk to me about, KD and D-Book wanting just the playoffs. They combined for 65 points. They shot a combined 26 for 45 from the floor. They did their job. Even Royce O'Neal gave you 12 points. Grayson Allen, 2 for 5. Bradley Beal, 4 for 11. Oh, Lord have mercy. Nurkic, 3 for 9. This is a team that I have a ticket on to go win a championship because I thought that they were going to make a run. They're healthy now. That is no excuse, and that is why you can't take a team like them seriously right now.
No, you cannot. All right, coach, we've got your lion's share picks for tonight. Give me all 3 of these ones from the Laker-Buck game at once, because there's only 4 games tonight, and you got 3 player props from this one big matchup.
Well, I'm going first off with Project Pat. Pat Connaughton over 4.5 rebounds plus assists, or 4.5 rebounds plus assists. Pat Connaughton is someone who's playing pretty well so far this year. Over 12 in his last 15 games. Look for Project Pat to get busy tonight. Secondly, I'm going to go to Rui Hachimura. Rui Hachimura over points, rebounds, and assists at 20.5. This is someone that's only come in 3 out of the last 5 games, but no LeBron, and when he gets 30-plus minutes, he's gone over 11 out of 17 times. Last, Brook Lopez. Lord, I'm going to Brook Lopez every time I do this. It doesn't pan out. But Carver High, I got faith in the big man. Why, folks? Because I'm not counting rebounds. Points plus assists over 10 of his last 15 games, head-to-head versus the Lakers over 3 straight. He gets over 11.5 points plus assists tonight.
I need the Bucks to go 12-2 over their last 14 games to get me that 55 win prop. I could eat every win I could get, including tonight against the Lakers. Finally, Coach, Warriors are in Miami tonight with Trace Jackson Davis.
Shout out to Scotty Ferrall. He's going to love me for this one. I'm going with the Hoosier tonight. Trace Jackson Davis over 17.5 points, rebounds, assists. Over and at 5 out of his last 7 games. Last matchup versus the Miami Heat, he got to 22. Getting more playing time. Shout out Ferrall. He better not choke like the Hoosiers do most of the time. Trace Jackson Davis over 17.5 PRA.
There you go, Coach. Great job by you. Coach's Lions Share picks brought to you by BetMGM. 2 other good games tonight as well, Coach. Thunder are in New Orleans against the Pelicans. Mavericks are in Sacramento against the Kings. That's the second leg of that TV doubleheader tonight. But as you mentioned, no LeBron for the Lakers in Milwaukee against the Bucks. So that is very key. Coach James Young, we'll see you tomorrow on the Lions Share, brought to you by BetMGM. We're back after this.
The Lions Share, presented by BetMGM.
They go into the Pac-12 tournament, they win it, then they go into the NCAAs, and they put up a bucket load of points. They have looked fantastic. That's not the team that I saw in the regular season.
All those people that had all that extra time because of those COVID seasons is going to be gone, and you're not going to really have the 23, 24, 25-year-old basketball players running around anymore. It's not going to happen.
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The books have so much information. Now, the gamblers do as well, but it's coming down to sometimes coaching, sometimes, a good play, a good call. I mean, the block last night that was a block, it was called a foul.
Oh my God.
My God, that was
Dude,
all
we would
ball.
see that highlight forever.
Yes.
And instead, we
got robbed.
We'll never see it again.
Got robbed by a referee, making, that's a ref.
They still covered, though.
They did. They did cover.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
I think JMU is going to knock off Wisconsin. I think JMU, with the way that they can score the ball and spread you out, Wisconsin struggles to defend. They're in the bottom third in defensive efficiency.
Iowa State's not going to beat you with offense necessarily. They're just not. Illinois will beat you with offense. I like Illinois. I don't love them enough to beat UConn. You got to guard at some point. Give me Connecticut to make the Final Four.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart Team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
And we are back for El Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us. Davis Maddock is with us every day here on Coast to Coast. Of course, Fantasy Sports Today, Saturday mornings here on the grid. Davis, we're almost there, baby. Thursday, opening day, the real opening day. I know we played the 2 games in Korea last week, but we're going to get things going for real on Thursday. Now, you and Scotty spent a lot of time on the Ohtani stuff yesterday before he actually it wasn't a press conference. It was a statement that he read. And as me and you were just saying off the air, like, they should have just put the statement out, Davis, because all that was yesterday just, I think, fueled more people that, like, just the suspicions rise and we can't ask him. Like, I think the main question everyone wants to ask this guy is, why did the interpreter have access to your bank account? Why did that would be the question I think everyone wants answered. And the conspiracy theories are going to continue to fly until he answers that. And he didn't yesterday, and they're going to keep flying, but they're going to play baseball on Thursday, Davis, so it'll start to get pushed back a little bit.
Well, definitely. And I thought, look, if you're wanting to go down conspiracy theory alley, which some people definitely are, the thing that he said, that why I guess said through the translator, was I have never willfully sent money to any bookmaker, legal or illegal. Now, obviously, the word willfully is doing the heavy lifting in that sentence. I mean, I can't pretend to know the intricacies of the life of a Japanese multi-million-dollar baseball player. I can't pretend to know. And I told Scotty this, and I'll say it again, is I hope it really was just his friend did him dirty, like stole his information, got whatever. That's what I hope.
I don't look, we all are in the speculation business with this now because we don't know all of the facts. As far as I look at it, I think he genuinely was trying to help this friend out. In fact, I think the story that the interpreter first told ESPN is probably the closest version to the truth that we have of this story. He built up a huge gambling debt. His friend tried to help him out. His friend wanted to do it so that he wouldn't spend more money gambling. And then when that story came out, Ohtani's people looked at him and said, you can get in a lot of trouble for doing that. We're not going to say that you did that. So I really think, Davis, when we get to the root of this thing, if we ever get to the root of it, it will be that Ohtani's not betting on anything. He's not betting on baseball. I don't think any of that was going on here that people want to think. I think he legitimately tried to help his friend, and it went south because he did something illegal in trying to help his friend. And now they're trying to climb him out of that hole. That's pretty much what happened.
That's like the simplest, most reasonable explanation. Not that Shohei Ohtani is undercover a degenerate addict. It's basically his buddy. His buddy gets a line of credit and says, "Look, I'm good for it. I'm Shohei Ohtani's best friend. I'm Shohei Ohtani's interpreter. Look, you can go on ESPN and see a video of me interpreting for him. You can go look me up on the Angels website or the Dodgers website or whatever. I'm good for it. I'm good for $1 million. I'm good for $2 million." And look, if you're dealing with an offshore entity, like you are going to be on a line of credit. This is the way sports betting existed for a long time before UIGEA. Like that just was the way that it was. It's not really that implausible. It's really not that crazy that this guy could get $4 million, $5 million of credit by saying, look, I'm good for it because Shohei is good for it. And I would believe that the story ends with him being like, hey, man, can you bail me out of this? And then Ohtani's like, I don't want to tell my people, but sure, I'll bail you out. And then his people get wind of it, and they're like, dude, you really messed up.
Yeah, but I think it's very reasonable to consider that Shohei Ohtani, when he did that, didn't probably know the laws of wiring money to an illegal bookmaking operation. I'm sure that he didn't think in his mind that he was doing anything illegal when he was paying off his friend's debt. I just think that when this will go back to the original story that the interpreter told that day over in Korea, and they're just going to try to get the legal tracks out of it between there and then. Baseball does start. We spent a lot of time with the Yankees the last few weeks. I'm very down on them, Davis, despite being a Yankee fan. I'm not a believer because I think you could take half the Yankees roster and set the over-under of May 15th of when they're going to end up on the injured list. I think that that's unfortunately their entire situation. And sure enough, Garrett Cole will miss the first couple months. And now DJ LeMahieu is going to start the year on the IL after, once again, Aaron Boone telling everybody that he was going to be fine. And he's not fine. He started the year on the IL. So I trust nothing the Yankees say, and I'm sure, and Rodon's first on my list, Davis. He'll be the first guy by May 15th that goes on the IL also.
Oh, you think Rodon is going to be on the IL before Judge or Stanton? I mean, I think that would be a real upset if someone gets on the IL before them.
I don't know. It's possible. It's very possible.
It's not great. I mean, look, every guy, every key member of their starting lineup has had some significant injury. Glaber has had a significant injury. I guess Soto has not missed too much time with injury in his young career. I mean, Rizzo already has lat tightness. I mean, we'll see what ends up becoming of that. But Judge, Stanton, Rizzo, Verdugo, these guys have all had extended periods. I guess really it's kind of are we going to see a year or two breakout for Anthony Volpe? That feels like kind of the bright spot coming into the season for the New York Yankees. And I guess maybe I guess you don't think so, but Rodon turning the clock back to his 2022 season somehow.
Yeah, I don't see it. I'm stunned that they're still favorites in the AL East. I get it's the Yankee tax. I'm stunned that their win totals in the 92, 93 area. I just don't see it. I think they'll get an MVP type year from Juan Soto, and then Juan Soto is going to take a whole lot of money from somebody else. That's kind of how things are going to go, unfortunately, for them. Me and Gabe were talking earlier about that second pick. Me and Joe were as well, and the crazy smoke and steam the last couple days that now J.J. McCarthy is potentially going to be the second overall pick in this NFL draft. Now, this has flipped a few times, Davis. You know this. You track it more than anyone else. We had a long period where no doubt it was going to be Drake May as the second pick. Then after the combine, no doubt about it, it's Jaden Daniels. He's going to be the second pick. And now we have new smoke that, there's a chance J.J. McCarthy's going to be the second pick. What do you think?
I mean, this is the way to profitably bet on the NFL draft, is to know when the rumors are just rumors, to be very clear about, okay, this is why this is leaking, right? Because no one from a front office is just calling up these guys and being like, you know what, this is exactly what we're going to do with this pick. It's all of it's smokescreen, it's deception. Now, some of it, I mean, obviously you can just figure out, right? Like it is pretty obvious that we are going to see Caleb Williams be the first overall pick to the Bears. You know, Keenan Allen is at the USC Pro Day. I think we can feel pretty good about that. But the right way to react to this is you got to take it when the odds move against common sense. And I actually have May and Jaden Daniels both at plus money now to be the second overall pick, because remember, there was that 4-day span. The Commanders signed Marcus Mariota. Everyone convinces themselves that means that, oh, well, if Mariota is your backup quarterback, that means you have a mobile quarterback, which obviously means you're taking Jaden Daniels and not Drake May, as if Drake May was some immobile statue quarterback at USC or UNC, which he definitely was not. And I could see these three quarterbacks, or the two quarterbacks, May and Daniels. I really could see it going either way. I could see the Commanders having a preference for Daniels. I definitely could see them having a preference for May. The thing I cannot see is any team leveraging all of their future assets to go in and ship it all for J.J. McCarthy. I think if you're trading all the way up to 2 or 3, it's got to be for Daniels or May, not McCarthy.
It certainly sounds like, though, some of these teams are going to do it to the 4th spot if Arizona's willing. I mean, Jim Harbaugh is putting on a clinic of how to pump a guy up. And I really started to click for me, Davis. I get it was his guy and he coached him at Michigan, but he gets 4 quarterbacks in the first 4 picks of the draft. He's sitting there at 5, and suddenly he has a chance at the best available player, non-quarterback, for the Chargers at 5. So I think what Harbaugh is doing is brilliant, honestly, pumping J.J. McCarthy up more.
Or, I mean, even more than that, it could be, the Cardinals are just locked in to taking Marvin Harrison Jr. McCarthy's sitting there for the Vikings. McCarthy's sitting there for the Raiders.
Yeah.
McCarthy's sitting there. I mean, probably not the Falcons anymore, but there are plenty of teams, more picks, or just there are so many scenarios where McCarthy being inflated in value helps the Chargers. And I mean, look, do I think there is a small part of Jim Harbaugh that wants to trade Justin Herbert to some other team for a bag of balls so that he can be reunited with J.J. McCarthy? I do 100% believe there is at least 10% of Jim Harbaugh that does want that.
The way he talks about him, I'd say it's more like 50. I mean, I honestly think that he would, if they would let him, if the Spanoses would let him, I think that they would allow him to be able to go and do that. He loves this guy. Only 4 NBA games tonight, Davis, but you have your eye on one of them, and that, of course, is the Dallas Mavericks into Sacramento against the Kings. And both of these teams on a back-to-back tonight, Davis.
Both of them on a back-to-back. Now, I woke up and I was like, I didn't really understand this line. I thought maybe Luka might sit. I think there's still a chance he might because we have the Mavs as road dogs against the Kings. Although, I mean, to be fair, look, these are 6 and 7 in the Western Conference. The Kings have played a ton better as of recently, but Luka, no Luka. And I think by now, I mean, look, it's almost 5 o'clock in the afternoon, East Coast time. I think if he was resting, we probably would have known at the earlier injury report and not at this one. I mean, if there's 2 teams that can battle back against the underpalooza that has existed in the NBA since the All-Star break, I definitely think it's these 2 teams. No rim protection to be found on either team now that Derek Lively is only playing about 18 minutes a game for the Mavericks. Sabonis is, I mean, look, this double-double streak is incredible. I think he's almost averaging a triple-double right now. Like, it is a crazy season. If the Kings were like the 3 seed, I think we might see him be second in MVP voting, but the fact that they're the 6 or the 7 is going to keep him from that. But this is, to me, a great spot to take the over on 233.5.
And it's a big game, like you said. They're both trying to avoid that play-in game right now down there. So a lot at stake tonight, which is why you probably will see Luka push through and get in that. We have the NCAA tournament back on Thursday night, of course, Thursday and Friday. Is when the Sweet 16 will get going. But, Davis, sometimes you got to lock these things in early in the week because numbers can move. We've seen a few already, and one of those that you are looking at is Marquette early in the week.
Yeah, this one to me feels like one that is going to end up moving against us in their game against NC State, the 11 seed. They are only 7.5-point favorites right now on, or 6.5-point favorites right now on BetMGM. I was pretty impressed with both of the games that I watched, and I thought they looked a lot better with their point guard Tyler Kolek back, and Cam Jones kind of has the aura of a March hero. And NC State, they're a fine team. They're about to play, I believe, their 7th game in 16 days or something. So they're a little warm there.
Davis, we will see you back here tomorrow, where of course not only is it Golf Wednesdays, like always, on C2C, and we have Scotty Scheffler at plus 250 to win the Houston Open. But baseball starts Thursday, our last chance maybe for some baseball futures before we get going for real. So maybe you'll give us a few of those too tomorrow. Davis Maddock, Fantasy Sports Today, every day on Coast to Coast. We're back on the grid right after this.
SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
SDSU -7.5, and then Washington State will take on Drake in the 7-10. Wazoo a 1.5 favorite. So we got two close ones here in terms of the spread.
State was one of the top 30 teams in the net rankings, so I think that Drake might be a little motivated to prove that, hey, our conference should have had two teams in this tournament. Indiana State didn't make it, but we'll represent pretty well.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
I was going through this bracket, and I kind of lined up where I was in the futures market. I said, I have one more bullet left. Where do I go? And I played Tennessee.
$10,000 worth of Oakland gear has been sold to people with Louisville area codes. Like, this is going to sting people who are Wildcat fans because their arch rival gets to walk around and say, you lost to who?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live, all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
And we are back, Ferrall, coast to coast, here on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. It is time for this day in Carver High history. Here we go, 1972. Lakers break the then NBA record by winning 69 of their 82 games. That would stand for 24 years. 73, UCLA beats Memphis 81-76 to win their 7th straight title. Bill Walton wins the most outstanding player for the second consecutive year. 74, George Foreman TKOs Ken Norton in the second round to win the WBA, WBC, and the Ring heavyweight titles. That fight, Joe, in Venezuela. 1979, Michigan State beats Indiana State to win the national championship in the then highest-rated game in college basketball history. The start of Magic versus Bird. Here we go.
12, 11. Oh, that Reed has hit three. Oh, there's the pass. Like a jock. It's all over. Michigan State University, national champions, 1979.
Joe had Indiana State with the points in that game, in that championship. 79, the Padres and the Giants announced to play an exhibition in Tokyo, but the Giants players rejected. 92, Mike Tyson sentenced to 10 years in prison for the rape of Desiree Washington. 95, Lee Jansen wins the Players' Championship over Bernard Longer. We love Longer. 2001, Tiger wins the first of his 2 Players' Championships by 1 stroke over Vijay Singh. 2006, Stephen Ames shoots a final round 67 to win the Players by 6 over Retief Goosen. I also saw, Joe, today was the day that George Mason beat UConn in their magical NCAA run for Larinaga, your guy that year for George Mason getting the job done. We have one more hour to go, Joe.
And he did this year.
Made a lot of money off that Final Four appearance for George Mason, that's for sure. Coast to coast, hour to go. We're back after this.